With Team of the Season just around the corner, if you guys need FIFA 23 coins, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some updated custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2 formation, one of the best direct formations in FIFA 23. Now just before we get into the video guys, as always I'd appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up as that does really help me out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you also get notified when a video is posted. With all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics for the defensive style, as always I suggest having this on balanced. The reason we have this on balanced is because it gives you the greatest control over your defense. When you need to press an opponent you are able to pressure them, and when you need to drop off and be a little bit more passive you are also able to do so. So balance is definitely the way to go in my personal opinion. Moving on to the defensive width, I suggest having this on about 40, 42, any number between like 40 and like 45. The reason for this is we can keep a primary narrow defense, meaning we block those attacks through the middle, so we're as solid as possible in the center of the park. We also have that natural width to cover the wide areas when an opponent tries to go down the wing, which is why we don't have such a low width to the point where we would have no coverage of the wing. So anywhere between like 40 and 45 is good in my opinion. Moving on to the depth guys, I suggest having this anywhere between 55 and 65. 65 obviously gives you the higher depth and then 55 would give you the lower defensive line. So I kind of go in between, having this on about 60. This is so our defensive line isn't so far back where we're always getting pinned back, and the defensive line isn't also too high to the point where we're always getting through balled. It's kind of a nice balanced defensive line where we can either defend higher up the pitch when we choose or defend a little bit deeper when we need to as well. Moving on to build-up play guys, I suggest having this on balance. This is because it's the most consistent, it gives you the most variety in your build-up, and I think it suits all types of FIFA 23 gameplay. What I mean by this is FIFA 23 gameplay is obviously very inconsistent. Sometimes it can be quick, other times it can be slower. So something like fast build-up would be very good if the gameplay was quick, but as you guys know it very often isn't. So balance is just the way to go in my opinion. Now moving on to chance creation guys, I suggest using direct passing. This is because it's the most meta option in the game. It makes your attackers bunch up against the defenders, so you're able to do like really overpowered isolation plays. You also get that extra pass option in the box to guarantee you those goals. This doesn't really happen with other settings. If you don't like direct passing, you can use something like forward runs, which pushes your team very far into your opponent's half, but just beware, if you lose the ball you will get counter-attacked. Moving on to the attacking width guys, I like to have this on about 52. The reason for this is we don't have a super narrow width to the point where our players are like sat on top of each other, and we don't have a super high width either to the point where this feels like a 4-2-4. So I'm kind of going with 52 at the moment because it's a nice balanced width and we get the most out of our players with it. Now moving on to players in box guys, I have this on 6. This is so we can commit a lot of players into the box, but obviously when we lose the ball we're not totally vulnerable to those counter attacks. It's still nice and balanced. As for corners and free kicks, I have these both on 1 because there is a corner kick routine that I use which requires both of these to be on 1. Now moving on to the players you want to use guys, in the 2 striker positions I suggest going for a balance between the 2. So I suggest going for like a creator finisher dynamic where you have one player which is where his sole purpose is to obviously finish off those chances, and then the other striker is a little bit more creative so you can get a bit more out of your build up and create more varied attacks. It's just something I like to do with the creator finisher because I feel like you just get more out of the team. If you just have like 2 out and out finishers, you're very limited to things like through balls and crosses, which is not always the best option. Now moving on to the 2 cams guys, I suggest using like winger style players because these are like your main outlets in the team. I know they're technically cams but they can still play quite wide, so it's important that you have players with good skills, good pace, good dribbling, good crossing, good shooting, good passing, just really good overall attacking ability. You don't want to use somebody that is clunky with no creative ability, otherwise you might struggle. Moving on to the 2 CDMs, in the left CDM spot I go for a more defensive minded minded player. This is somebody that's going to stay back, break up the play, and really add defensive support to us. So if you can get it a medium high work rate, it's super beneficial, so you get the maximum contribution in defense and then not too bothered about attack. Moving on to the right CDM, guys, I like to go for a more box to box style player. This is somebody that is going to attack and defend for us, and the perfect work rate is a high work rate, so you get the maximum contribution in attack and defense. Moving on to the fullbacks, I like to go for a balance between the two, where in the left back position I have Roberto Carlos, who's a bit more technical, better on the ball, and then in the right back position I've got Cafu, who maybe lacks that technical ability but is a little bit more defensively sound. That's just something I like to do. You guys don't have to do it if you don't want. As for the centre backs and the keeper, these just need to be as good as you can get them. There's not much to say about them. Now moving on to the player instructions, guys, on the more creative striker, we just have him on stay central, mixed attack. We have him on stay central because we don't want him drifting off into the wide areas. He is a striker, so it is important that he's always filling the correct position. If we have him on drift wide or balance whip, sometimes he's just really far out of position and he's not really where we need him to be. Stay central, super important in my opinion. We also have him on mixed attack because he is the more creative player, so we don't just want to restrict this player to running in behind. Sometimes we want him to sit a little bit deeper to get more involved in the build-up play. Moving on to the right striker, where I've got my more poacher striker, the one that's there to finish off all those chances. We have him on stay central and get in behind. Stay central for the exact same reason. We don't want him drifting off into the wide areas. We need him to be in the central position. And then we also do have this player on getting behind, so he's always looking to make those runs to get in on goal where he can finish off the most chances. Moving on to the right cam and the left cam, we have them just on getting to the box to cross. The reason we do this is because if we have them on balance crossing runs, sometimes they can be very static when we get to the penalty area and they won't really get involved in the attack. So getting to the box to cross is super important, so they do make the transitional runs into the penalty area. Moving on to the left CDM, the more defensive minded CDM, we have him on stay back while attacking and cover centre. We have him on stay back because he is the most defensive player, so we do want him to stay back and add defensive support. We don't really need him to go forward. And we also have him on cover centre, so he does cover those central areas, which is super important, so we don't just get one passed through the middle. Moving on to the right CDM, the more box to box style player, we have him on default settings and cover centre. We have him on the default settings because we don't really want to restrict him. He's got a bit more of a free role in this team. And then we have him on cover centre, so he does cover those central areas. Moving on to both fullbacks, we have them on stay back while attacking and overlap. We have them on stay back while attacking, so we're as defensively sound as possible. So if we lose the ball, we're not just going to get through ball down the line. And we also have them on overlap because let's say I do want to send them forward with L1 or with the D-pad tactics, they will make the overlapping runs to add extra width, which is why we do that. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, these are on default settings and I do not touch them. But yeah guys, that is it for this video. If you have enjoyed or found it useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.